Welcome to our channel Crime Loom, the place where true crime stories come alive. The city slept under a heavy blanket of darkness. The streets, usually bustling during the day, were now eerily silent. Streetlights flickered occasionally, casting strange shadows on the empty sidewalks. Somewhere in the darkness, a presence moved, unseen yet palpable. The police had dealt with criminals, with danger, with violent acts before, but nothing could prepare them for what lay ahead. This was no ordinary criminal. This was a person whose mind had been twisted, reshaped into something unrecognizable, something purely evil. It started with small things that didn't seem connected at first. People disappearing late at night, cars found abandoned in strange places, windows smashed from the inside, yet nothing stolen. Some dismissed these incidents as petty crime, accidents, or random misfortune. But Detective James Marshall, a veteran officer who had seen enough horrors to last a lifetime, felt it in his bones. Something sinister was growing in the city, and it would not stop on its own. The first real sign of danger came when a young woman vanished on her way home from work. Her apartment was neat, nothing out of place, but she had simply disappeared. Friends and family searched, but there was no trace. Marshall reviewed the case with his team. There were no signs of struggle, no witnesses, nothing to follow. But the detective noticed something odd. The window latch had been tampered with, carefully, almost meticulously. Whoever did this knew exactly how to leave no trace. Over the next few weeks, more disappearances followed. Men, women, even teenagers vanished without explanation. Each time the killer left no evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing that could be used to track him. It was as if he had a sixth sense, always one step ahead of the police. The city began to tremble with fear. Rumors spread about a monster in their midst, and the police felt the pressure like a weight pressing down on their shoulders. The killer was no ordinary criminal. He was calculating, patient, and utterly merciless. Detective Marshall spent long nights going over the evidence. He examined patterns, searched for connections, and consulted experts in criminal psychology. The conclusion was chilling. They were dealing with a psychopath unlike any he had encountered. This person was smart, organized, and utterly ruthless. There was a method to the madness, a dark intelligence guiding every act. But what terrified him the most was that the killer seemed to enjoy the hunt, like a predator savoring the chase. One rainy night, the police received a call about a break-in at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Marshall and a team of officers drove through the pouring rain, headlights cutting through the mist. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark and silent. When they entered, the scene sent chills down their spines. Blood smeared the walls. Furniture was overturned. It looked like a struggle had taken place, but no one was there. The air was thick with a metallic smell, and every corner seemed to hide something sinister. It was the first time Marshall truly felt the presence of evil in the flesh. The killer was clever. Each time the police thought they were close, he vanished. He left notes, almost mocking the authorities, written in a neat, cold handwriting. "Try harder." One read. "You are too late," said another. It was clear he wanted the police to know he was always in control, always watching, always ahead. Marshall felt a mixture of anger and fear. The game had begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. One day, a young officer named Sarah stumbled upon a clue. It was a small thing, almost insignificant, a fragment of fabric caught on a fence near a crime scene. To most, it would have been meaningless. But to Marshall, it was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. The fabric pointed to a specific area of the city, a place where the killer might have spent time. Marshall organized a team to investigate, hoping they were finally closing in. The streets were empty as they approached. Every shadow, every sound, made them jump. The city seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what was about to unfold. When they reached the location, what they found was horrifying. The killer had anticipated their arrival. He had set traps and left signs of meticulous planning. It was as if he was playing a game with the police, daring them to enter. The officers felt the weight of the situation. This was not just a criminal. This was someone who had no conscience, no remorse, someone for whom life was meaningless. Marshall and his team had to tread carefully. One wrong move could cost them their lives. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the corner of the building. The killer emerged calm and unflinching, as if he had been expecting them all along. His eyes were cold, devoid of emotion. There was no hesitation, no fear, only a chilling certainty. The officers were trained to handle dangerous situations, but what they faced was beyond any training. This was evil in its purest form. Marshall tried to reason with him, to appeal to whatever humanity might remain, but it was useless. The killer was not human in any sense they could understand. The standoff lasted for hours. The police tried every tactic, every strategy, every attempt to subdue him without violence. The killer was always one step ahead, predicting their moves, manipulating the situation. He seemed to enjoy the tension, the fear, the control. Marshall realized that capturing him would require patience, precision, and nerves of steel. They had to be careful. Every action could trigger a deadly reaction. As the night dragged on, the officers began to feel the psychological toll. The killer's presence was suffocating, oppressive. It was like staring into the abyss and knowing it stared back. Marshall kept his team focused, reminding them of their training, their mission, their responsibility to protect the city. Slowly, carefully, they maneuvered, closing in on him. Every step, every sound, every breath mattered. It was a dangerous dance between life and death, sanity and madness. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they cornered him. The killer's calm demeanor never wavered. He looked at them as though mocking their efforts. But Marshall had studied him, understood his patterns, anticipated his moves. With careful coordination, the police subdued him, restraining him before he could react violently. Relief washed over them, but it was mixed with horror. They had faced pure evil and survived, but the memory would stay with them forever. The city slowly began to recover. Families mourned, communities healed, and the police were hailed as heroes. But the psychological scars remained. Marshall and his team had stared into the darkest corners of human nature and come out alive, but changed forever. They understood that evil exists in the world, sometimes in unimaginable forms, and that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the courage to face it. Even years later, Detective Marshall would think back to that night. The killer's calm, unflinching stare haunted him. It was a reminder of the thin line between ordinary life and chaos, between safety and danger. The police had met pure evil and survived, but they carried the weight of that encounter with them every day. It shaped their approach to every case, every investigation, every suspect. They knew now that evil is not always obvious. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. The story spread far beyond the city. Experts in criminal psychology studied the case, fascinated and horrified in equal measure. The killer became an example of the depths of human depravity, a case study in how someone could plan, manipulate, and kill without remorse. The police officers who faced him shared their experiences cautiously, knowing that the world needed to understand the danger, but also that some horrors are best left in memory, not relived. Marshall often visited the families of the victims, offering support, trying to give some closure. He understood that nothing could undo what had been done, but justice had been served. The killer was locked away, never to harm anyone again. Yet, even in prison, he remained a chilling reminder of what humanity is capable of when twisted by darkness. In the end, the story of that night became a testament to courage, vigilance, and the resilience of those who face danger for the sake of others. The police had walked into darkness, confronted evil, and survived. They were changed, marked forever by the encounter, but they had done their duty. The city was safer, at least for now, and the story of that night served as a warning. Evil is real. It can hide behind normal faces, in ordinary places, and it can strike without warning. But courage, preparation, and dedication can stand against it. The officers who faced him often reflected on what they had learned. Evil is patient, clever, and unrelenting, but so are those who fight it. The balance between good and evil is delicate, and the world depends on those willing to stand on the front lines. Marshall knew that, despite the horrors, they had made a difference. They had met pure evil and survived, carrying with them the knowledge that darkness can be confronted, even if it leaves lasting scars. Even today, in quiet moments, Marshall could recall the fear, the tension, the chilling calm of a killer who seemed unstoppable. But he also remembered the teamwork, the strategy, and the courage that brought them through. The encounter shaped him, shaped his team, and shaped the city. They had faced what few could imagine, and in doing so, they reminded the world that evil may exist, but it is never
Subscribe to Crime Loom and join us as we unravel